You're listening to the Sisters-in-Laws podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women who replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women, according to the NIH and CDC. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee, and you will hear me interview sisters-in-laws who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Now let's get started. Welcome to episode 217 of the Sisters-in-Laws podcast. Do you know the symptoms of stillbirth? Stopping of fetal movement and kicks, spotting or bleeding, no fetal heartbeat, heard with the stethoscope or Doppler, no fetal movement or heartbeat seen on ultrasound, which makes the definite diagnosis that the baby is stillborn. Today's guest experienced some of these symptoms going into her 7th month of pregnancy. Angela Hampton found out she was pregnant and that she needed to take supplements. She then started to celebrate her pregnancy by preparing for her baby. During her 7th month, she became ill and took a few days off of work to rest. She went back to work and was talking with a coworker that she had not felt the baby move as much. The coworker recommended that she go to the OBGYN to get checked out. Angela was sent straight to the hospital after that OBGYN appointment, and they told her then that her baby had died and she would have to be induced. In this episode, Angela takes us back to the moment she was told that her baby died and she would have to go to the labor and delivery to deliver them. She shares how she has started living life after loss healthily and abundantly. Here is Angela Hampton. Well, welcome to the podcast, Angela.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate you opening the platform for my story.
Absolutely. So I always like to begin with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, my name is Angela Hampton, and I have been a PA which is a physician assistant, for over 20 years, and I practice in the field of family medicine in rural communities.
Awesome. But you have a story to tell, and I would love for you to walk us through your story, your journey to motherhood, and share with us your story.
Well, my story to motherhood began about 30 years ago, 30 to 35 years ago, with the words of, "You're pregnant." And it was a very confusing news, actually, because at that particular time I was single and I had just graduated college and started a new job at a medical university in the lab. But as with all pregnancies, I began to accept that fact. And as a single mom, preparing to be a single mom, I started getting everything in order. And my particular midwife at that time, she was like, "You need to drink milk. You need to wear your seatbelt." Back then, seatbelts weren't mandatory. And basically, I hate milk. But for my baby, I said, well, I'm going to start drinking a little cup of milk and trying to incorporate that into other various ways, like added it to my oatmeal and different things like that, to do what I needed to do to have a healthy pregnancy. And about my 7th month, about 28 weeks, I began not feeling well. I just kind of stayed home for work. I called out for 2 days. And then my mother had come down because I was living about 3 hours away from her. So she came down to kind of look after me during that time period. And I felt a little huge, like kick. And then all of a sudden I had to go to the restroom. I had to go pee. And so I did that and went and lay back down and basically rested. And so the next day or two, I was feeling better. I was feeling much better. So I went on back to work and I was just talking with this older lady at work and I said, I haven't felt the baby move. And she was like, well, that's not a good sign. You need to go right over to your GYN and see what's going on, OB, and see what's going on. And I did. And they couldn't find the baby's heartbeat. And they were like, oh, well, Angela, we usually can find the heartbeat on your baby quickly. And they said, get right over to the hospital. So I went, I got my mom and I said, we got to go to the hospital, something going on with the baby. And went on in and they did, I guess, a more in-depth ultrasound and they still could not find a heartbeat. So they were like, okay, we're going to have to induce labor and, get this baby out. And I said to myself, I got to go through labor to bring a dead baby into the world. That's just how I felt. I was really feeling some type of way in my feelings at that time. And sure enough, I went through 12 hours of intense labor. And the medicine they used, I don't know if I had a reaction to it or what, but I was throwing up and almost lost consciousness. And they were like, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. And I was just like, I just want to go to sleep. And it was like, no, wake up. And finally, like I said, about 12 hours later, I was like, well, Mama, I'm having the baby now. And she went and got the doctor and he looked and he said, yeah, go ahead and start pushing. And I started pushing and, delivered that baby. And they were like, but they were a good team in that they said, you want to take photos with the baby, you want to have a memory. They did the footprints and all of that. And that was, that was good. I'm glad I did that. I didn't have like a funeral for the baby. I was just so hurt. I mean, to me, and this is how I felt, I'm just laying it out there. My mind was like, I was doing everything I could to save my baby, but you got women on crack that having fine babies, they popping out babies. I mean, that's just how I felt. I was really, really hurt. I was asking God why, why did all of this happen and whatnot. And I just wanted to get rid of all my stuff because I'm the type of person, like I said, I was a single mom. I had diapers, I had baby seats, I had bassinets, whatever you needed to bring that baby home. Like I said, I was in that third trimester, entering that third trimester, I had it. And I was able to donate it to a birthing center called Birthright. And so I felt good about that. I felt like, my baby was able to have a legacy. It had a purpose in that I was able to donate those items. And then, I had to have closure with that. And a lot of people, it's a funny thing because a lot of people say, oh, 7-month baby lives. 8-month babies don't live, but 7-month baby lives. I mean, I never heard that before till I got to my 7th month. And that's what they were saying. Oh, no, 7-month baby. I don't know where that comes from, but it wasn't true for me. Then fast forward about 3 years and I married. We tried to conceive and we had difficulty conceiving. I went through the fertility pills. I went through IVF, and we just couldn't. It just wasn't happening. I did have a miscarriage. It was about 6 weeks, so it was a little early for me to even know that I was pregnant. I just went to the emergency room because I had passed this huge, what I thought was a clot. I didn't know, at that time it was a fetus with a placenta, and then they told me, yeah, you're pregnant. And I'm like, oh yeah, my husband was just smiling from ear to ear. They was like, but you need to go on bed rest. So I did that and they said, report to your GYN, which I did. And he said, yeah, apparently you had lost that one. So we went on from there. And again, about 7 years into our marriage, what had happened was I got laid off from my job and went to my OBGYN. I said, boy, my breasts are very tender. I said, but I got accepted into PA school. And she said, okay, so we're going to put this baby making on hold for now, right? Until you finish PA school. I said, yes, ma'am. We're not going to try, right now while I'm going through school. Well, of course, I was pregnant. Come to find out, I was pregnant. This was my rainbow baby. But when I got to that 7th month, all that anxiety, I was like, oh Lord, that anxiety came back. I was like, am I going to make it through this? And then about the 8th month, I had preeclampsia. So I was on bed rest. At least I thought I was doing bed rest anyway. They tried to let me do it at home, and I was laying on the couch, and then maybe I'd get up and go to the kitchen for something and then come back and lay back down. They was like, no, baby, that is not bed rest. So they ended up putting me in the hospital where I had complete bed rest. I found out what bed rest truly was at the hospital. I mean, they weren't even letting me to get up and go to the restroom. They was like, you got to use the bed pad. So, but through it all, I delivered via C-section a healthy baby girl. My rainbow baby was born November the 30th, 1995.
The 2021 Sisters-in-Law Summit is being held Saturday, October 2nd, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's virtual. This summit will be the premier assembly of Black women, advocates, birth workers, health professionals, and therapists working to improve pregnancy loss and infertility outcomes using the birth justice, reproductive justice, and human rights frameworks. It will offer a national space for learning, discussions, healing, and organization for Black women who have experienced pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Our 2021 theme is Healing is Our Birthright. It centers healing as a tool for joy, love, and peace on the journey to motherhood and life after loss and infertility. This Sisters-in-Law Virtual Summit meets the need to convene Black people working to improve our outcomes in pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Registration is now open and tickets are available. For our Sisters-in-Law listeners, go to sistersinlawsummit.com. That is sistersinlawsummit.com to register today. Once again, that is sistersinlawsummit.com. We do not want you to miss on Healing is Our Birthright and why we need to take control over our healing at this summit in honor of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. sistersinlawsummit.com.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing your story. I know many of us can relate to a lot of the questions and some of the thoughts that you had when you were experiencing your stillbirth. And there's so many other people who have babies who are healthy, Lord, why me? Like, why did I take myself on that journey? So take us back there. Like, really, how did you get to a place year after year after year of you and your husband using fertility treatments to want to keep going so that you can get to your rainbow baby? So how did you go through that process of grieving and healing and getting to that place of resilience?
Well, actually, about the year before I met my husband, I was with this GYN, and I told him my story of the stillbirth that I experienced, and I actually had some medical problems around that, and that's what they think caused the stillbirth, and to the point that I was actually paralyzed. And it took a lot of steroids and medications to bring me back to be able to walk and to be able to use my hands again. And I was like, if I have to go through that again, I don't want to go through that again. it was a very difficult time trying to recuperate from the stillbirth and then this paralysis that resulted right after that. And so I told him, I'm like, you need to tie my tubes. You need to do something because I'm not going through that again. You know, the old people used to say how you have 1 foot pregnancy is 1 foot in the grave and the other foot on a banana peel. I mean, that's basically what I went through with that first pregnancy and stillbirth. And he wouldn't do it. He's like, oh, you're going to get married and you're going to want to have a baby. And I was so mad at him. I'm like, I know I don't want to go through that again. That was really put my health on the line. So sure enough, like a couple of months later, I did meet my husband. And of course, we did want to try to have children some years into the marriage, about 2 years into the marriage, after we got a chance to really know each other, we decided, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And so that's what we were doing. We tried the natural way. I went and got myself tested. He got himself tested. He did have a low sperm count because he had some radiation to his hip. He had a hip replacement. So he had some radiation to the hip, which is around the pelvic area and the genitalia area. So it was like, okay, his sperm count was a little low. And, you know, I had my health issues and whatnot. And so we were trying, standing on the head. We were doing all kind of things. It was all kind of things that we were doing, in addition to the fertility pills, in addition to the IVF, but it just wasn't working. It just wasn't working. And like I said, I got my opportunity to go to PA school, and I said, well, let us put it on hold. And I was already pregnant. I was already pregnant. Yeah.
I would love for you to share, you know, how you navigated through that 7 month of pregnancy with your pregnancy after loss. You know, you mentioned that you had a lot of anxiety as you got up to that 2nd month. What did you do to help ease that anxiety and move forward with the rest of the pregnancy, especially since you were truly on bed rest? You know, I can think that may make you even more anxious being on bed rest at home and then actually being truly on bed rest where you physically couldn't get out the bed in the hospital. Share with us about that.
So, yeah, when I made that 7th month, well, first of all, that pregnancy, we didn't tell anybody. I told him, I said, we can't tell nobody till, you know, almost that she's here, almost till that baby is here, because I just didn't want to go through that loss again, you know, and everybody, you know, feeling sorry for you and sympathy and you know, another wives' tale of, you know, well, this baby do this or you didn't do that, or, you know, my going to school might have had something to do, you know, just any kind of thing. And so but at that 7th month, I have to say my husband was a rock for me, because I just talked about it. I did. I was like, you know, this when I had the stillbirth at that time, and he was just there. He let me cry on the shoulder and let me express my concerns whenever I would feel that way, you know. But yeah, so that's basically what I went through with that. And then the bed rest, again, I was doing everything that I could do on my end to navigate through PA school, because I'm still in PA school during this time period, right? But thankfully, it was kind of close to the end of that first semester. The semester was supposed to end December the 10th, and I was due December 22nd, but with preeclampsia, you know, I had the swelling, I had the elevated blood pressure, the elevated liver enzymes, and they were trying to keep me, you know, out of eclampsia where you have seizures and all that stuff. And thankfully, I didn't get to that point, you know, because I was doing what the doctors told me to do, trying to do that bed rest, keeping my foot up, laying on the left side, doing my homework, laying down, laying on the left side. So, but yeah. And so really, I had the C-section. She was due December 22nd. And she came here on November 30th. Weighing 5 pounds, 14 ounces. So just shy of 6 pounds.
Amazing. Amazing. So, were there any like resources out there that were women that had gone through loss, or what a pregnancy after loss looks like, as you really navigated that journey? Can you think of anything? Was there anything back then? I don't know.
I wasn't aware of it. The internet was not a big thing back then. And even this is how I felt, and it might not have been like this, but even my OBGYN at that particular time, I felt like didn't know how to talk to me or what to say. That's just how I felt even back then. The GYN that delivered my baby is different than, that particular one way back then, and 7 years prior. And so I don't feel like it was a lot of resources back then because we didn't have the internet. And if others had lost their baby, they didn't really talk about it a lot.
Absolutely. And I think that is the good thing about the internet, as much as we may not like some of the craziness that happens on social media, is that, it has brought out this new community of women in this next generation who are willing to be more open and transparent and vulnerable about their experiences online and find a sense of community and home, which typically a lot of people may not get even in their own circles with their family and friends. So I'm happy that I'm happy that I asked that question, because I want people to know, like, this is a new thing. Everybody's not out there culturally, especially within the Black community, going out and telling everybody that they've experienced loss. And this is like a new thing over the last maybe 15 years where we've been more open to share. So I would love for you to leave our listeners with just words of encouragement. We are still all experiencing some form of collective grief and trauma, with this pandemic, with this virus taking so many lives. And then a lot of women are still struggling to get pregnant, going through treatments, making the decision to actually, get pregnant, and then actually, want to stay pregnant and bring their healthy baby home. What encouraging words can you leave with our listeners?
One thing that I would encourage, and again, I'm taking this from a family practice practitioner as a PA, is get your prenatal care. As soon as you find out you're pregnant, go get your prenatal care. And even before that, if you're thinking about getting pregnant, start on some prenatal vitamins or even a good multivitamin, because that's important to the neural development of the baby. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. If you're even thinking about getting pregnant, go ahead and start some prenatal vitamins. And then once you find out you are pregnant, please follow up with your OBGYN as soon as possible and stick to those regimens. Don't be ashamed like, oh, I smoke, I can't go to the OBGYN now, I feel guilty about it. Or, oh, I had some alcohol before I knew I was pregnant. Go to your GYN. Don't let anything stop you from doing that, and communicate with your GYN. And because babies are resilient, and just keep the faith. That's one thing I say, just keep the faith and don't give up if that's truly what you want, because there are a lot of different modalities that's out there to help you get pregnant if that's something that you desire. So just research those resources. And if something does occur where you lose your child, then reach out to the community, such as this one, like Sisters in Loss, to help you grieve and go through that process.
Yes, thank you so much, Angela, for being on the podcast and sharing your experience with us. Where can we connect with you after this episode, especially for those who may have some questions, especially about your specialty with working in rural communities? As we know, rural communities are hit harder by everything,
Exactly.
especially
Yes,
going on in
ma'am.
this pandemic.
Yes,
So where can
ma'am.
we connect with you on social?
I'm on Facebook, and that's as Healing Hands Hemp, HAMP, and that's at Facebook. And then I'm on Instagram as healing underscore hands underscore hemp, HAMP. So healing
Okay.
hands hemp, Facebook, and then healing underscore hands underscore hemp on Instagram.
All right. Well, we are thrilled to have you. Thank you once again for being a part of the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate this opportunity, and I really am so glad that you have this platform for sisters-in-laws.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinlaws.com to stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Laws community and receive my weekly newsletter. Please go to sistersinlaws.com/newsletter. That is sistersinlaws.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.